It's been a while since we've looked at AI in trading. In that time, the AI models have gained more intelligence, which can only be a good thing for traders. What we are going to do in this video is take you on a journey. We aren't just going to dive straight into AI, we need a purpose, and that purpose is a strategy which performs well and games that are offering value. Without these two components, you would be struggling long term, even with the help of AI. Before we crack on, I'll show you some of the results we've had recently. The Panathinaikos game in Greece gave us 4 out of 5 predicted outcomes. Stuttgart versus Frankfurt also gave us 4 out of 5 predicted outcomes. While Wolfsburg versus St Pauli gave us 3 out of 4 predictive outcomes, all from using the same prompt. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to use my second half goals strategy, which is heavily based on the over 2.5 goals market. I filtered my match list to just look at the English Premier League for this Saturday's games. This has only given us one game, Liverpool v Burnley. Now you might be thinking, oh, he's picked a game that will be an easy home win. Maybe it will, but if all you're interested in is that it would be a home win, take your 1.22 odds, back it and move on. If you want a deeper dive into the game, then stick around and see what we can find. Looking at the head-to-head module, it is true that Burnley away are terrible. 2s and 3s are consistent scores for the home team, and Burnley do tend to score in most away games. Liverpool at home are having an indifferent season by their standards, 0s, 1s and 2s being scored and conceded mainly. This information is going to be important when analysing the expected goals, which we'll do now. The formula I'm using for expected goals gives Liverpool 2.47 and Burnley 0.99. I would say that is fair based on what we've just seen. What is interesting is that the draw and the away win are both value odds. So if you do put your money on Liverpool at 1.22, you aren't getting value. I would expect this to be most people's opinion, even without data. In fact, the data puts them on 1.43. Still hot favourites, but with no value. On the correct scores, we have 2-0, 2-1, 3-0, 3-1, 1-0 and 1-1 as the top 6. Now we've got our data-driven opinion of this game, we are going to head over to the AI. What most people do now is just throw all of their stats at the AI and expect it to come up with an outcome. That is where we were 12 months ago. We are far past that though. We've used historical data to find our selection. We then used predictive XG to try and work out the potential goals for each team this weekend, and we found value in markets that we weren't initially looking to trade. Notice that the over 2.5 goal market wasn't value. But this is just my take on the data. What if I'm missing a trick? What if I've misrepresented the data? Data is data. It is what you do with it that defines a good system or not. This is why CGMBet is better than anything else, as it lets you model your data in many different ways. I want a totally impartial opinion from the AI. I'm not going to pass it any data, just a series of complex forward-thinking tasks. Now I have my own profiling, I'm not bothered about what happened in the past. I know from CGMBet what it thinks is likely based on my expressions, but I want to know what AI thinks is most likely to happen in the future. I'm going to pass it a complex prompt in JSON and let it come to its own conclusions. I'm not going to show the full prompt. I've helped other content and software creators far too much in 2025. They can do some of the work themselves if this interests them. So you can see here we've got the fixture, the date of it and the competition and the market focus. That is as much of the prompt that I'm going to show you. This will take 5 minutes or so to compile the results. So once we have the results, we'll come back and we'll delve into it and see if the AI agrees with our own profiling from CGMBet. So here we have the results. To start with, we get the summary and we get the obviously Liverpool implied probability is greater than 80% to win. Key players missing from the game, so obviously Salah has gone off to the African Cup of Nations. Conor Bradley's injured and Trent Alexander-Arnold's obviously left the club, and it's just discussing how Liverpool's season has been going, and the same with Burnley, and this is where we get into the nitty-gritty. So we're looking at the XG and the patterns. So it's showing here Liverpool's last 10 games have scored 14 goals, and their home XG over the season is 31.9. But recent results is declining. So this is looking across the whole season rather than just their home games. So the 0-0 draw against Arsenal and also the 1-0 victory against Burnley last time around. It shows how they struggled to convert their dominance into goals. And it said they're currently underperforming in the last 5 games, obviously without Salah and Isak. So it's going into all this detail, which it's going to use in its own XG calculations. So obviously no software on the market is looking at player data, whereas the AI gives you that perspective. So the AI is then breaking the game down into 15-minute chunks and looking at Liverpool's scoring against Burnley's conceding. It's telling you here what it's thinking will happen. It's looking at the last 76 to 90 minutes here, which was when the goal was scored in the reverse fixture, the 95th minute, for those that remember. Very contentious penalty from memory. And it's looking at the referee, how many cards it gives on average, and how this might play into Burnley's hands, as he's quite lenient, so they could potentially break the game up, which supports the low-scoring first half thesis. And we've got the AI to do a Poisson distribution simulation of 10,000 games, and it's adjusting its thoughts here based on what it has found and also the people that are missing. And it's come up after the 10,000 games with a score matrix. So it's predicting the high scores being 2-0 and 3-0 to Liverpool, which, if you remember, were 2 of the top 6 scores we had from CGMBet. So that is reassuring for us that the AI model is agreeing with our own CGMBet predicted XG model. And it's saying the probability of Burnley scoring 0 goals is 62%, which again is good for us because 3 of the top 6 scores that we had Burnley scoring 0, the other 3 had them scoring 1. And it's given us some entry and exit strategies here. Back under 3.5 goals at 155. And if it's still 0-0 at 25 minutes, then cash out for 50% of that for your profits. And also, if a goal does go in that time, it says not to panic because the model predicts a high likelihood of a lull period between 15 and 45. Hold the position until half time unless a second goal is scored immediately. So it's actually giving you some advice here based on what the model is saying, which takes out any emotional thought process. And it's saying here if it's still 0-0 or 1-1 at 70 minutes, then lay the draw. This is down to Liverpool's spikes of scoring in the 76th to the 90th minute, and this is where Burnley tend to struggle. And if Liverpool score, green up immediately, or take the loss by 88 if there's no goals. It suggests a Van Dijk goal at any time because Liverpool will be reliant on set pieces with no Salah, and we've got the summary at the end of the trades that it's suggesting. So under 3.5 goals. Look for odds of 155 or above, and the AI is confident on that. Dutch 2-0 and 3-0 for approximately 2.8 combined, with a medium confidence. Laying over 2.5, odds of 148. So remember, initially this was a game where we were looking at over 2.5 goals, and CGMBet showed there was no value in that, and the AI is actually saying to lay that. It's got medium confidence, but it is something that it's suggesting. And also lay the draw if the odds are lower than 4 at 70 minutes. Van Dijk to score, it's got low confidence, but if the odds are above 7, then it's saying to give that one a go. And at the end, we've got a CSV output here of the score heat map, which we asked it for in our prompt. As we can see from here, the AI in a lot of instances does agree with our profiling from CGMBet, and that gives me the confidence to actually trade with my beliefs. And also maybe add in things more player specific, like the Van Dijk to score, which I say no software on the market at the moment looks at player information for a good reason, that it's just hard to keep up to date with. But the other bits of information here, these are all freely available in CGMBet. Like correct scores, we've seen that. Overs and unders, we've seen that. We'll come back after this game has been played, and we'll see how close our own profiling and the AI profiling have got to the actual outcome. Welcome back, and as you are probably aware by now, the game finished Liverpool 1, Burnley 1. So those of you who took Liverpool as a banker at 1.22, hang your heads in shame. We identified there was no value in this result, and so it proved. And if you remember from the CGMBet data we looked at, then this actually did identify the value being in the draw and the away win. Not to say that this would happen all the time, but just that this is where the value was, and that's how you should be looking as a trader. So let's look at what the AI predicted and how it stacked up against our CGMBet profiling. So firstly, the prediction of under 3.5 goals was correct. Even though Liverpool had 32 shots, they could only find the one goal, and missing a penalty didn't help their cause. The second prediction, the Dutch in the 2-0 and the 3-0 lost, because as soon as Burnley scored, both these were dead in the water. This is why I always prefer to Dutch 6 scores. It reduces the profits, but it also gives you the flexibility for unforeseen events. Next was the lay over 2.5 goals, and this trade would have won. The AI called it correctly that people would overreact and expect Liverpool to score a hatful, which never transpired. Laying the draw at 70 minutes would have been a loser. The odds were around 2.3 for a draw at 70 minutes, well within the range that the AI was giving us. I expected another goal, but it never came. And also there was no goal for Van Dijk, which left us with 2 out of 5 on this game. So one of our poorer attempts, which I always knew would happen as soon as I made a video about it. So comparing this with what happened in CGMBet is interesting though. We calculated the expected goals of 2.47 and 0.99, and the actual XG of the game was 3.19 for Liverpool and 0.4 to Burnley. So this was in the right ballpark. Thanks to the software, as we mentioned earlier, there was also value in the draw and the away win, and also both teams to score. And the correct scores, the 6th most popular was 1-1. So we were correct on that market too. The key to take from this game is to be selective with what you take from the AI. Don't just assume it is better at profiling than CGMBet is. It gives you a lot of great insights, and it gives you angles that no trading software can do, such as player information. It is up to you as a trader to decide which suggestions are relevant and which are not. As for CGMBet, the results that it gave after using my XG formula are strong. We would have done well on this game if we'd have followed all of these results. If your trading software cannot do this, you're only getting half the picture, yet paying considerably more than CGMBet, which completes the picture for you. As this video is mainly about AI though, I did do another couple of AI profiles, solely to see what it came up with. Firstly, there was the Hertha versus Schalke game. This game finished 0-0. Interestingly, the model had 0-0 at 25.5% probability, with 0-1 at 26. It only suggested trading one score, but with them being that close, I would have included 0-0 too. Other trades were to lay Hertha, which would have won, to back under 2.5 goals, which would have won, back both teams to score as no, which would have won, and if you were to include this in an accumulator, then it was saying go for Schalke or the draw, which also would have won. This was an extremely successful read. The final game was the Capivaro versus Ponta Preta game in Brazil. Now, I deliberately chose this game because only 2 games had been played in the league. So this was an experiment to see how the AI dealt with this data. So what it said was to back the home team, Capivaro, and close at 1.4 or after a goal had been scored. Now, the home team took the lead after 20 minutes here, so that one would have won and would have closed out there for a profit. Now, the correct score, it's saying, was 1-0 and cash out at 75 minutes if this was winning. And it went 2-0 in the 95th minute. So again, we would have cashed out there, taking our winnings. The total goal was under 2.5. Obviously, the score was 2-0. So that one came in as well. Capivaro clean sheet. Then obviously 2-0, that came in as well. And in play lay the draw, it wasn't 0-0 at half time, so that one was not applicable. We've used exactly the same prompt for all of the games, the Liverpool game, the Hertha game, and this game in Brazil. You can see how powerful these returns are, and also with CGMBet, how accurate our forward profiling with predicted XG. Remember, it is predicted XG, not XG based on previous games. There's a lot more in this formula than other software is able to do. So if you do want to do something like this in future, then CGMBet is currently the only software, as far as I'm aware, that will allow you to do this. And what I'm using here is Gemini, which is £18 a month, which when you look at all the add-ons that others tried to convince you to purchase, this is far cheaper than any of the tools on the market other than CGMBet with its one-off cost. So don't spend money on a subscription for trading software which only tells you half the story. Purchase CGMBet and spend the rest of your money on a Gemini license and still have change left for a pint. If you've enjoyed this video, please do give us a like and subscribe. It is the only way to grow the channel. Thank you for watching.